Welcome to She Sells Radio, my friend. This is going to be what I think will be a very transformational podcast for you. That is my intention, at least, because what I'm going to share with you today has shifted me from being someone who was always overwhelmed, always feeling behind, always beating up on myself for feeling like I wasn't doing more, to being one of the most highly productive and effective and happy people that I know. And here is what I will say is I get asked a lot of questions about time management. And I wanted to do a podcast specifically about that for you today, because I haven't spoken about that for a while. And I've also learned a lot of new things in the past year or so around this. And it's funny, the timing of this too. So as I record this, we have an 18-month-old at home with us. We have the leanest support team I've ever had as well. And so we're making a lot of shifts in the company. We're making moves, and I'm doing a lot of things right now that I wasn't doing even a month or so ago. And these are not things that are a good use of my time. Like I know this because we're running with a leaner team than we usually do right now, because we're between hires for some roles. I am doing things that are not a great use of my time. Like I know that, but the company needs them to keep running. And so I'm kind of in one of those seasons where I have felt tempted to go into overwhelm. Now, one of the things, and this is something that we teach in the She Sells world, is like, we're not available for overwhelm. We don't even use that word, because if you say I'm overwhelmed, your subconscious mind is going to take that as a command to make you overwhelmed. So I do not say that, but I have been tempted to go there multiple times in the past, I'd say a few weeks to month. And so I've had to lean in even more than I usually do to what I'm going to share with you today. And it has helped us continue to grow exponentially as a company. It's helped us get better results in the past month than we've ever gotten before in a lot of key areas. And it's helped me maintain my sanity while we're in this very interesting, it's a season, right? There are seasons. And so, like I said, I wanted to record this because I've had a lot of clients ask me lately, like, how do you get so much done every day? Because they know how much we're growing. They know what we're creating. And they also know that, like, I spend a lot of time doing what I love. I spend a lot of time with my son. I take Tuesdays off now to be with him completely, which are beautiful. And one of my favorite gifts I've given to myself as a mom CEO. And I would just say, right off the bat, if you're a mom, if you're a parent, like, look at how you can create your own version of that in your life and create that flexibility. But you've got to have the belief systems about time in place that we're going to talk about today in order to do that, and in order for you to make that work for you. So here's another thing I will say is, this is not going to be traditional time management advice. It's not. And here's the thing, like, you already know, I know, to time block. Okay. You got to have a morning routine. If you're in sales, if you're still doing that role in your company, like, you do your sales activity first and you prioritize that. Like, those things, and those are important. And those are all kind of like givens those are givens for today's conversation. But what I'm going to share with you today, this is next level thinking around time. And if you're like me, it's going to challenge you initially when you hear it, because it is the opposite of what most of the world says about how to create more money, about how to be effective, about work and how results are created. But here's what I'll share is, you always want to evaluate the source with who you're learning from. So do you want the results of most of the world? When I look at most of the world and where people are, they're unhappy, they're overwhelmed, they're unhealthy. So do you want those results? Because if you do, then listen to them and try it that way. But if you don't, then I want to challenge you to lean in and just have an open mind as I share this and say, well, what I've been doing has gotten me maybe to a certain level of success, or has me feeling burnt out, has me feeling like I'm on a hamster wheel, which, by the way, that is not how you're meant to live. That is not how you create most powerfully. And if there's any of that going on for you in your life right now, I want to invite you into a new way of thinking that you can create more, make more money, be more effective. And it does not include burnout. It does not include overwhelm. It does not include the hamster wheel. And what I'm going to share with you today is these are things I've learned from multimillionaires, from highly successful people. They are tips and strategies that literally they don't, some of them, like, I'm still blown away that it works, but I'm here to tell you, I've applied this in my life. I've applied this in my business. We have gotten exponential results. I've been able to turn annual income into weekly income in a very short amount of time doing this. And so if you want those types of results, I want to invite you to have an open mind and to say, I'm just going to try this. Like, I'm just going to try this until I see that it doesn't work for me. And that's everything. That's all I ever want you to do, is have an open mind and be willing to think differently than most of the world. So the biggest thing I would say, first off, with time management is I don't like that term. I use it in this title and in the episode because it's what people know, but you can't manage time. Like, you cannot manage time. Time is nonlinear. So if you're trying to manage time, that's the the first thing. You can manage yourself, and you can manage your energy. You can manage your belief systems around time, and you can manage what you do. So today's episode is going to be about those areas and managing those parts of your life, which are going to get you exponentially better results with the time that you have. So 3 key things that have helped me make big moves and shift out of overwhelmed into just feeling really at peace, but also very productive. And the first one, and this is something, so one of my mentors works specifically with moms, and she shared this with me a while back. I don't know, it was a while back, but it changed my life in terms of how I think about time. And if you're, if I know we've got moms who listen to this podcast, we have people who don't have kids, we have dads. So it's like, all of this, you can take it and apply it to your own life. But she shared this with me specifically about, as a mom, how do we achieve success? And she said, you have to, your level of success and how quickly you scale will depend on how quickly you can go fluid, how quickly you can go fluid. And when she first said that to me, that it challenged my way of thinking, because the way I had been taught to be successful and what I had done was like, you need this very strict plan. And you need to, if you're not on all day long during working hours, right? 8 to 5, 9 to 5, whatever, like, you're not being productive. And I was feeling challenged at the time because we currently don't have childcare. I was feeling challenged with, like, I'll be in work, I'll be running meetings, and I'll hear my son outside and he's with my husband, but I'll hear him outside and I'll hear him like crying, or I'll hear him laughing. And I would feel so pulled to go be with him. And I bet if you're a parent, you could probably relate to this, especially if your kids are at home. And it is that pull and that tug. Now, another thing that I've decided in my life is I'm not available for mom guilt. And that is something I get to work on every day. But I think that's a very disempowering, like, cultural thing that we've created, where, like, you should feel guilt, or it's normal to feel guilt because you're torn between kids and your business. And so I get that, like, I felt that pull, but again, I've decided I'm not available for that. But I was feeling the pull of, like, my mom heart, right, would want to go be with him. But I would have this very full schedule of clients and of work to do that day. And so what she shared, and I guess the other piece, I'll share another piece where this applies, and then we'll talk about the strategy here. But I also had a very clear vision of how I thought we were going to achieve a revenue goal that we were going for at the time. And she was like, do you really care if we were going for $1 million at the time? So she was like, do you really care if it's $83,000 a month, or if you had nothing this month, and if you earned $1 million next month, would you be okay with that? And I kind of thought about it. I was like, yeah, Like part of me likes the consistency. And so that is something that, that I value is building up that consistent cash flow in your business. But when she said that, I was like, yeah, at the end of the day, it's the same result. And so this concept of going fluid is something that I think all of us today, with the world we live in, and whether whether you have kids at home and maybe you didn't, but that's happened because of COVID, or maybe you're working at a corporate job and you're starting a side hustle, or whatever it is, we have to be willing to lean into being more fluid. And fluid can mean how the results come in. So I'm not attached to, does it have to be, this consistent amount every month, or could it be this amount one month and then less the next month and then way more the following month? Like the thing that I affirm now with revenue is I've got a goal, I've got a target, I've got how I think it's going to happen, and I'm working towards that. But if there's a better way that it's meant to come in and it's for the best and highest good of all involved, I'm all for it. Like, do it, universe. I'm going to get out of the way. So there's fluidity in how we achieve our goals, but there's also fluidity in how we manage our time throughout the day and manage ourselves throughout the day, right? Because we can't manage time. I caught myself there. But so what she had shared was like, do a meeting and then maybe go and spend 10 minutes. If you got 10 minutes between the meeting, go spend that with Jack, my son, and play with that and see, is that more life-giving and kind of more of that ebb and flow, which is more of the feminine energy? Does that actually fuel you and give you more of that focus and power going into your next meeting, instead of being so rigid about it and being like, this is a work block. I've got this thing on the calendar right now. If I break my focus, I'm going to not be as productive as I am. And I am someone who has preached against multitasking for years. And I know, like, I'm still not a fan of multitasking. You can't multitask. But this concept really challenged me. And I started playing with it a while back, of more like just ebbing and flowing throughout the day and being willing to be a little messier about it, which honestly, again, it challenged me to the core, because I am someone who, I like a schedule. I like being productive. I'm a huge fan of all of that. And I know a lot of my listeners are as well. And that is important. But I want to challenge the thinking there and say, what would it look like for you to go a little more fluid in your day right now, especially if that's what's required, and not beating yourself up about it, not making yourself wrong for it, but saying, well, with this, 10-minute break with my kid, like, would this actually give me more life and more fuel going into what I'm doing next? Or maybe you don't have kids home, but maybe you need to step out and go for a walk and re-energize. And these are strategies that we can use to actually bring more intention, more energy, and more effectiveness into the next thing we're doing, because we're not feeling so torn between things. And so I want to invite you to think about that, and to think about, what would it look like to go more fluid, and remembering that your ability to scale and the speed with which you're able to scale is going to depend on your ability to go fluid. And one of the little things that you can do, if you start leaning into this, which I do encourage you, because it has made a big difference for me. And I feel more, number one, I'm more productive and more effective. Number two, like, my mama heart is filled, and my cup is filled too. And we can't give from that empty cup. So this is working really well for me right now. And I want to encourage you to do it. But this little thing you can do is, when you're shifting between activities, just take a moment. It can be 30 seconds, and set the intention. How do I want to show up in this next segment of my day? And it can be as small as a breath, right? Like breathing in. Okay, maybe I'm moving from work mode into mom mode, or into wife mode, or husband mode, and breathing. How do I want to show up in this next segment? What's my intention? And doing that, it is a game changer, because otherwise you kind of drag that energy of the last thing you were doing with you, and you're not going to be fully present. So just breathe, settled. What's my intention in this? And this is a really powerful tool if you are ebbing and flowing between types of activities during the day. It's something I've coached a lot of my clients on, even, male clients who I work with who are executives at companies. And there was kind of a common challenge I saw with them of going home and walking in the door at night and just being not present with their family, because they were still thinking about the day. And one of the things I would always encourage them to do is like, take a few moments when you're in the car on the drive home and breathe and just kind of focus on the day, like releasing the day. There's a great, Brendan Burchard talks about this in his book, High Performance Habits, but it's release tension and set intention. So you literally, you can pull into the garage if you're working out of the home, sit there for just a minute. You just close your eyes and you repeat to yourself, release, 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 release. And you just feel any of the tension from the day melting away. And then you very briefly set the intention. How do I want to show up in this next segment of my day? The energy you bring to your family is going to be different than the energy you bring at work, right? And especially for those of us who are moms or wives or women, like when we're in work mode, we're in our masculine energy. And that energy doesn't work very well if you have a male partner, at least not all the time. So we've got to really be willing to kind of shift and flow there and say, how do I want to show up energetically in this next segment? And it's a huge game changer, and it doesn't have to take long. So that's number one, is you got to be okay with going fluid, and you got to lean into that. Number two, oh, this is a big one. Stop deriving your value from how much you do. This is huge. One of my clients and our community members, when I said I was going to be recording this episode, and I said, what are your questions around time and time management? And she said this one line that I thought, oh, I get this. I apologize. I've got dogs in the office with me, so you'll hear a little background, but she said this one line that really struck me in my heart, because I used to really struggle with this. And she said, how do I become okay with doing less? And the conditioning in our culture is so pervasive that if you want more money, more sales, more results, you got to just do more. And it's whoever's first in the office and last out at night, like that's who wins. And here's what I will say is I am productive. Like I get a lot done every day, but it is not busy efforting action. It's not doing more for the sake of doing more. It's extremely intentional. And it's about only doing the things that are extreme, like that are really moving the needle for you in your life, and being okay with releasing anything else. Because it's a limiting belief. It's a misconception in our society that hard work is what creates results. It's not true. It's not true. There are very hardworking people in the world who don't make a lot of money, right? It just is what it is. If you look at any sort of hourly job, if you look at, I mean, even like I think about my husband, like coming from healthcare, and he's moving into a different role now. He's studying to go to medical school, so it'll be a different type of role, but he came from a background of being a respiratory therapist. That is hard work. Like that is hard work. He was doing night shift. So think about working like 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. on his feet all night, like dealing with people who are not feeling good, who aren't always kind to him, who it's like a lot of hard work, but he didn't make a ton of money doing it. He did it because it was his heart and his love and his passion. And I respect that a lot. But that whole concept of hard work is what creates more money. It's not true. Effective action, right? Effective action following the law of compensation, knowing that the more value you provide in the world, that's what's going to bring in money. But that doesn't have to take a lot of time. There are systems you can set up. There are structures you can put in place. So you're creating value while you're asleep. And you can literally make more money while you sleep than you could ever spend while you're awake. And so it's not about hard work. And when you study most people who are multimillionaires, who are extremely wealthy, who are 8-figure, 9-figure, 10-figure billionaires, like it's not about the work for them. It's leverage. It's following the law of compensation. So you have to redefine your belief system around success and say, let me start studying people who are millionaires, who are billionaires, and see how did they do it? Because it's not what most of the world teaches. And so if your belief system is, I've got to like work harder to make more money, or here's another thing, and this is what really is the root of it for a lot of people. If I'm not doing something, I'm not worthy, right? And I want you to just check in. How much did that resonate with you? We've got to redefine our belief system. And the first thing I would invite you to look at is you are worthy just because you are. You are worthy because you're on this planet. There's not anything you can do or not do that's going to make you more or less worthy. But you'll always get what you feel worthy of. So you will only make the amount of money that you feel worthy of making. You will only receive the things in life that you feel worthy of receiving. So we've got to look inside first and say, well, how worthy am I really feeling around receiving what I want and achieving my goals? And if I'm not, if part of me doesn't feel worthy of this, which if there's a part of you that feels like you've got to work really hard, long hours to prove yourself, and it's from that proving, striving type of energy, that's where you got to start, my friend, is knowing your inherent worthiness, regardless of how much money you make, regardless of what you produce in a day. And when we come at our daily activities from that place, it's a big shift. And I'm here to tell you, you will, again, it's not about not doing things, because I do throughout the day. Like, I'm very effective, but it's from that energy of I am worthy no matter what. And I'm not doing these things to try to like prove something to myself or others. I'm doing them from a place of joy of I am so lit up about what I'm doing. I am so on fire for our business and for what we're creating and for the life I'm creating, that it is a joy. It is a privilege. It is an honor to do these things every day. And when you act and create from that energy, instead of the energy of lack, it will shift everything for you. And if you're a woman, I highly, highly, highly recommend the book Do Less by Kate Northrup. I'm not going to get into it in this podcast. I think I talked about it. I don't know the show. I know I've done it for some of our clients in the actual trainings in our portal. So if you're a She Sells client, there is a training in there for you on this. But I feel like I've maybe talked about this concept in a podcast of, as women, our energy cycles are different than men's. And so we operate, our hormones ebb and flow on about a 30-day, 28 or 30-day energy cycle, whereas men's hormones cycle every 24 hours. So as a woman, your energy is going to be different, and your peak types of activities to be doing are going to shift from a week to week basis more than a daily basis as our male counterparts do, because men's energy is about the same every 24 hours. And so they can do the same things every day and have good results, but it's different for us as women. But a lot of us haven't been taught that. And we make ourselves wrong for having a week where we don't feel like we're quite able to get there and be highly productive. So you got to know yourself, you got to know your body. And that book is a tremendous resource. And I love the title too, Do Less. It's phenomenal. So the other piece here is, looking at everything you do, because I'm going to preface this with this, I am always working fewer hours so I can spend more time with my son, so I can spend more time on self-care, doing the things that light me up. So I am consistently looking at what can I get rid of that I'm doing that is not effective. And I highly encourage you to do this too. And I really started getting inspired by this from one of my mentors, again, the same woman who, and shout out Kayla Craft, you're amazing. So she coaches moms. And one of the things she told me about her work week is she's like, I work about maybe 2 hours a day. Like 2 hours a day, maybe, and has a multi-million-dollar business. And that really challenged my thinking. That really challenged my thinking at first, because I was like, you're working how much and making how much? But it's that willingness to stop doing anything that isn't in alignment with your goals and your vision. And I experienced this myself before I went on maternity leave with our son, because at the time I didn't have any team. And I was looking at, I think I apologize. That's not true. I think I had an assistant, but she was going to be stepping out for a while. And so I was looking at I was working like 60-hour weeks at the time. And that just wasn't going to fly when our little one came into the world. And so I looked at, what am I actually doing that's creating money? What am I actually doing every week that's creating the biggest results? And it's just like the 80-20 rule. It was literally, I think 8 hours of true work every week. That was what was creating results. That was what was really moving the needle forward. Everything else that I was doing or spending time on was stuff that either I had committed at some point to doing and I felt obligated to do it, or it was the like, oh, you should be doing these things for results. I just got rid of all of them. I got rid of all of them and then continued to double my income quarter after quarter, even on maternity leave after that. And so you've got to redefine your belief system and stop equating achieving your goals with doing more. It's not how it works. It's not how it works. So the third and final tip for you here is you've got to shift your perception of time. You have to shift your perception of time and what time is and what time isn't. And we already, we spoke about this already, but being unavailable for overwhelm, like just deciding that's not part of your vocabulary, that's not part of how you operate. Because truly, and I used to say mindset is 80%. I am unequivocally 100% going to the grave. Mindset is 95% of it, of your results in everything. So I would invite you to study what is time and how does it really work? And what are the misconceptions that I have been conditioned by around time? This is why I love studying quantum physics. This is why I love studying Einstein time, because it's different. It's not what we're taught, but it will be whatever you think it is. So if you think time is linear, and if you think you've got to just work harder or faster or longer hours to create your results, it will be that way for you. So you've got to really do your own research here. You've got to really study deeper into what time really is. Into, again, like I said, quantum physics is a huge passion of mine because I have created, and this didn't make sense to me until I started experiencing it. So I totally understand if you haven't experienced this yet, it may not make a lot of sense to you, but once you do, you'll never go back. And in order to experience it, you've got to be open-minded to it. You'll only experience what you believe is possible for you. So I have noticed in my life and created literally what feels like a huge result out of almost nothing, because I practiced being present with that result. And I practiced in my mind and my heart, what does that look like for me? And what I lived that reality before it happened is what I'm trying to say there. I lived that reality before it happened, doing mindset work, doing visualization, doing my affirmations. And it felt like it came out of nowhere. And so again, this is where I would invite you to deepen your study, and it ties in with how do we be okay with doing less? It's not about, I'm never a proponent of like, just sit on the couch and meditate and it's all going to come to you. Even though I think if you reached a certain level of spiritual enlightenment, you could probably do that, because I've heard stories of things like that. And I've had experiences that are close, but there is usually action that's involved, but the action gets to be way less and way more effective when we focus on being it first and being a match for what we want. And then you literally are like a magnet that draws the right situations, opportunities, and things to you, resources to you that you need to create your goal. And that's actually how we're designed to create. It's just most of us have forgotten it, but you can create and you will create most powerfully from that state. So in terms of mindset, being 95% of it, like I invest time every day in my mindset. I invest a couple hours every morning. I get up early. I invest a couple hours every day in study, in listening to my affirmations. One of the things that I affirm, and these are affirmations that I've learned from other people that have really transformed my life, but one of the things I listen to every day, and I've affirmed, I've gotten this truth from conscious awareness into a subconscious belief system for myself. So now it actually happens. And that's always how it works. You'll get the idea first in your conscious mind. So when I say this, you may understand it conceptually, or you may have a belief system that says that's not possible, which is just good to know. But when we can move a thought from our conscious mind into our subconscious mind, and we just do that through usually space-time repetition or a very powerful emotional experience that gets it right in there, it becomes your reality. So this has become a belief system of mine is I generate new clients while I do what I love. Like I generate new clients while I do what I love. And that can be spending time on self-care. That can be spending time with my son. That's a big one for me is when I'm spending time with my son or with my husband, I'm generating new clients at the same time. And again, it's not that there's not some action involved. Like I'll have an instinct or I'll have a feeling like, oh, I should go do this or reach out to that person. But it's because I've been in such a high peak state doing that thing that fills me up in such high vibration that ideas that are a more powerful match for what you, for creating the result you want, they'll come and they'll flow. And then your job is just to act on them with non-attached energy. But I've created that as a belief system for me. And it happens. We were having a great time yesterday, out on a family trip and signed a new private client like that. And so it's like, it happens. It works when you believe it. Another thing, and I learned this from Joe Dispenza, I love this affirmation because you reach a certain point where what used to work for you to get you to a certain level, it won't work to take you to the next level. And so I've really learned in my own life, like for where we are right now as a company and as a family, and for where I'm going, I have to think differently. Like we have to learn to think differently than everybody else. And so one of the things I affirm every day is I live in no time and I create everything. I live in no time and I create everything. And what that means is it's like the normal rules of time don't apply for you. So again, when we deepen our study of how quantum physics works, when we deepen our study of universal laws and principles, you realize how this works and you understand how it's true. But you got to study this. You got to start doing deep dive study into this stuff. And that one shift of like, I live in no time and I accomplish everything I want and more is huge. So start thinking that way, start showing up that way. And not only will you get more done, you'll also be a much nicer person for the people around you. This is another thing that I have learned in terms of shifting your perception of time and your mindset around time is that, and this is for all of us. I teach this a lot to my female clients, but this is for all of us. If you're doing a task and it starts to feel like you're pushing and it starts to feel like, oh, I'm feeling the squeeze. This feels tough. If it feels heavy, set it down. Set it down. You are not going to be productive. You are not going to be effective. You're just going to make whatever it is you're working on worse if you just keep pushing through at that point. And when I say set it down, I'll give you an example. I don't normally set things down for this long, but this happened yesterday. So we were driving back from this road trip that we were on as a family. And some of my old conditioning was like, I'm going to get all my emails done. Because again, I'm doing a lot more than I'm usually doing right now because I'm between some team members. So I was like, I'm going to get all the admin stuff done for the business that we need to get done while we drive. Not thinking about the fact that I've got an 18-month-old who's just been driving for 6 hours and is bored out of his mind and is unhappy. So I'm sitting there like trying to push through and get these emails done, or trying to push through, right? Even just listen to that language. It's so disempowering. He starts screaming in the back seat. And I had a moment where I was like, glory, hallelujah. How is this going to happen? Because I temporarily forgot how this stuff works. And this happens. Like, this is why you got to study every day. You got to know how this stuff works, because the old conditioning was like, Elise, you should push through and just, let him scream. It's a learning experience for him. And I was like, this is not like, everything about this situation feels really heavy right now. And we all have to make our own rules with parenting, with how we show up, with how we operate. But the whole thing was feeling very heavy. And I realized, I was like, there is not anything effective or productive about trying to push through these emails right now. Well, my mom heart is like, your son needs some love right now. So I just stopped. I released the rule of, you got to get these things done by the time you get home, or else what, right? I said, you know what? I'll do it tonight after he goes down for sleep, and I'll only do the emails that actually matter. So release the need for inbox zero by the end of the day today. Again, focus on what is effective. And I spent time the rest of the drive doing what felt light, singing to him, playing with him, reading to him. It was a so much more enjoyable experience for us as a family. Everything got done, and I was able to bring better energy into what I was doing later on in the day, which got better, faster results. Now, when we set things down, I set that down for a few hours because we were driving and then we got home and then it was mealtime for him and I was doing all those things. But when I say set it down, like oftentimes throughout the day, it can be a 5-minute break. It can be a 2-minute break. If you're in any sort of pushing, efforting action, that's heavy. And you're not going to, again, that's when you're more like you're playing by the old rules of time management and it's just going to take longer. It's going to be harder and you're not going to be as effective. So set it down, and you want to get back into that most powerful creative energy of gratitude. Gratitude is critical if you want to learn how to bend space and time. If you think about it, this is part of being an energetic match for what you want. The end goal that you're looking to create, whatever it is, I don't care if it's more sales, more clients, more, a home, a car, a relationship. Why are you doing it? Well, you think it's going to make you feel a certain way, and you think you're going to feel really grateful, right? And you are. But if we try to create something that we're going to feel grateful for out of an energy of resentment, frustration, irritation, impatience, you're not a match for it, my friend. So it's going to take you a lot longer. You're not in that energy. So when we learn to become a match for what we're creating and create from that place of gratitude and put something down, if we lose that state and then come back to it when we're back in that state, I'm here to tell you, it will shift everything for you. You will experience true quantum leaps when you approach it this way. And you got to just trust me and try it for yourself. But set it down, and you can go for like a quick walk outside. You can breathe, close your eyes and breathe and set the intention. Or maybe you set it down for a few hours if you need to, right? Like you got to learn to manage your energy and how important that is. And I get to remind myself of this every day because it really is. It is one of the keys to the quantum leap. And two final things here in terms of shifting your perception of time. One, and I heard this from, the great and now late Bob Proctor, which is just, he's transformed so much of my life with what I've learned from him, is that you can get a lot done in 60 seconds. You can get a lot done in 60 seconds. And when I heard that the first time, it really challenged my thinking. But I thought, because I used to schedule meetings in like hour blocks or 30-minute blocks or tasks in that amount of time. I started thinking about that. And I was like, you really can get a lot done in 60 seconds. And that will shift everything for you if you start thinking in much smaller increments of time in terms of how long things will take for you. And again, it's not about like cramming as much in as possible every 60 seconds, but it's about knowing that you are in control of time. You are the master of time, not the other way around. And when you come at it, when you consistently create a belief system that you do live in no time and accomplish everything, and that you do make a lot of money while you're doing the things you love, and that you are a highly effective, highly productive person, you start to really get a lot done in a short amount of time. And I remember hearing at one point, and I don't know this person's perspective on time. I don't know how much I don't know enough to say like I would do everything he does in regards to time, but I do know he's created a lot, is Elon Musk, and learning that he schedules his calendar in usually 5-minute increments and 5-minute meetings. So what can you do that's start to just shift how much you get done in a short amount of time? And the final piece of this here is understanding universal laws, understanding quantum physics, and doing this practice. I actually learned this from Kate Northrup's book, originally called Delegating to the Universe. And literally looking at everything you got on your plate for the day, everything you want to create. And it's a very disempowering energy to say, I've got to do all of these things, because you actually don't. But if you think you do, you will. That's kind of the theme of all of this. Whatever you think it's going to be is what it's going to be. But so there's this exercise that she teaches where you look at your list of what you got going on that day. And then you look at, you kind of think about it. This is a combination of Kate Northrup and Abraham Hicks, but you think about it like you have a very highly paid assistant who you're paying $500,000 a year to, and they are there to help you with anything you need. And what's happening is every day they're coming to you and they're saying, how can I help you? What do you need? How can I help you? What do you need? Now, most of us just ignore them. They're like, I've got it. I'm doing all of this. I'm good. Go sit on, like, I don't need you. And it's literally how most of us operate because we don't take advantage of the law of attraction, which is what this particular element is. But it would be the equivalent of having a very highly paid personal assistant you pay $500,000 a year to, and just telling them every day, oh, go sit on the beach and drink Mai Tais. Like, go have fun. I've got this. So I want to invite you to shift things powerfully because I do this now on a regular basis. And it's such a game changer. And you can say it in your mind. You can say it out loud. You'll feel a little wacky when you do it the first few times, but you'll start getting the results and you'll be like, oh, I like this. Like, I actually really like this. Is looking at what are the results you want to create? What are the end results you're looking to create in that day or in that week or whatever the time segment is, and delegate whatever you can to the universe. So I'll say this, like with client work, for example, or with bringing in new clients to our programs. And I'll say, like, if I have a sales goal and we're not quite there yet, I will literally say, please bring me the people who are meant to be in this program. Like, bring them to me and tell me, like, let me have a very clear download. If I need to reach out to somebody, if I need to send a message, like, I'll do it. I am all about doing and participating and being an active participant in what I'm creating. But what I've done this more times than I can tell you. And it works every single time, where I'll get an unexpected DM. Somebody who's like, hey, I've been kind of watching from the sidelines and I'm actually like, I see you've got this program going on and I'm ready. Like, I mean, it'll be like, wow, didn't see that coming, but great. Or I'll get a download, a nudge, like a certain person will come to my mind and I'll reach out to them and it's a perfect match. And so we want to learn to leverage the powers that we have available and delegating literally anything off our list that we can to that power, to that infinite power that runs through the universe, that's there to help bring you whatever you want, whatever you're a match for. So start using it and you'll notice your plate gets a lot lighter. Things get done faster. Some things literally just get done and handled and you don't have to touch them, and just play with it and have fun with it and try it. And if you want a deeper dive into that, I did a series in April of 2021. It's a YouTube series on how to release resistance to what you want, which is based on some of these teachings and based on the book Ask and It's Given by Abraham Hicks. So you can go, there was a whole day where we talked about, a whole video where I talk about this practice of delegating to the universe. And so you can go and watch that and do a deeper dive into it. But so that is it, my friend. And I want to know from you, here's what I would love is, number one, I'm always so honored if you take the time to write a review. If this podcast is serving you, it would really mean a lot to me. And I'd be so grateful. But I also would love to know on social, like, what was your biggest takeaway from this, and screenshot it and please tag me. I'd be so honored. And I want to know, like, what where is your head at after this? Because I know it's a lot and I know it may challenge and push the boundaries of how you think about time, but that was my intention. That was my goal, is I want to challenge you to think differently and think more powerfully about time. Because we have to, in the world we live in today. We are all being invited and called up to a higher level of thinking about how we create results in our lives. So I want to know, what was your biggest takeaway? What are you implementing? Tag me. I'm at Elise Archer on all platforms. I want to know, and I want to hear how it's going for you. So, all right, my friend, I hope you enjoyed. I can't wait to hear your takeaways, and I will see you next week on our next episode of She Sells Radio. Bye for now.